The paper-in-hand exploit. A stack of paper and a steady walk can open more doors than a master key. Not because the paper says anything important, but because it tells a story your brain wants to believe. This person belongs. This person is busy. Do not slow them down. That is the paper-in-hand exploit. Picture it. A thick printout hugged to the chest, a folder tucked under an arm, maybe a coffee balanced on top, and a face that reads, late but competent. The moment a door cracks open, the paper tilts, the shoulders turn, and the body language says, I am juggling too much to fish for a badge. Most people will hold the door without thinking. Some will even apologize for being in the way. No hacking, no lockpicks, just theatre. It does not stop at doors. In the elevator, the paper becomes a prop for urgency. A weary sigh, a glance at the watch, a muttered line about an audit or a client call, and someone with access taps their card for the restricted floor because they feel helpful and do not want to be the obstacle. At a reception desk, the paper morphs into authority. Names are dropped with confidence. Finance needed these signed. Facilities said this was urgent. The paper makes hesitation feel rude. Why does it work? Because humans are wired for shortcuts. We read cues, we avoid confrontation, we respect visible effort and apparent purpose. The paper frames someone as doing a job, and our brains fill in the badge we never saw. Add a lanyard with nothing on it, the right tone of voice, and a touch of impatience, and the story sells itself. If challenged, the exploit leans on social pressure. A flustered shuffle of pages, a clear apology, then a pushback into urgency. Totally, I should have my badge. Could you just tap me through this once? I am already late to hand these over. Most people cave rather than be the reason a deadline slips. And once inside, the same paper can be set on a desk like a reservation. Leave it, pick up another stack. Keep moving, and the scene refreshes wherever you go. There is a clean counter. Train for pause. Ask for the badge, not the story. Make it normal, even friendly, to refuse tailgating. Happy to help. Please badge in separately. Design the space so courtesy does not become a key. Self-closing doors, clear sightlines for reception, bright visitor passes that stand out, and printers placed where a full arm of paper is not a free pass through a controlled door. Give staff simple scripts they can say without fear of being rude, and back them when they use them. Remember, the paper does not prove anything, it only performs. Treat performances like performances, and the door stays shut. The because exploit. One word can pry open doors you thought were bolted shut. Not a magic spell, a reason. Specifically, because. Add that word and the mind relaxes a little. Defenses drop a notch. The request stops feeling like a shove and starts sounding like a story with a why. We crave cause and effect. Give a because, and you give people something to hold on to. Psychologically, this works because reasons create meaning and fairness in the brain, which increases the chance of cooperation. Here's the exploit side. The because effect can sway people even when the reason is thin. That's why it gets misused by clever marketers, pushy co-workers, and anyone who traffics in half-truths dressed as logic. Because it's limited. Because everyone's doing it. Those aren't reasons, they're pressure in disguise. There's a line between offering context and manufacturing consent. So use it, but use it clean. Anchor the word to something real. A genuine constraint. A clear purpose. A shared benefit. And match the size of your because to the size of your ask. Small favors can ride on small reasons. Bigger requests deserve bigger transparency. When the why is honest, because doesn't manipulate, it clarifies. Psychologically, clarity preserves autonomy, and autonomy keeps trust intact. People cooperate more when they feel respected, not cornered. If you're on the receiving end, flip the exploit. Ask for the because before you commit. Can you give me the reason? That single question turns a nudge into a negotiation. When the why is mush, walk. When it's solid, decide with eyes open. A quick cadence to remember. State what you need. Add because. Keep it true. Offer an easy out. Even a simple, if not, no worries, protects the other person's freedom and signals respect. That tiny exit ramps up goodwill more than pushy urgency ever will. One word, immense leverage. It can be a crowbar or a key. Use it to open doors, not to pick locks. Because. When your why stands up to daylight, people don't feel tricked into yes, they choose it. And chosen yes is the only kind that lasts. The copy-paste exploit. 2 keys, 1 shortcut, and an economy collapses. That is the quiet power of the copy-paste exploit. Not a flashy hack, not a secret program, just muscle memory baked into every keyboard, repurposed to bend a system until it groans. It always starts small. Someone tests a boundary late at night. More curiosity than malice. They copy a string that was never meant to be copied, paste it into a field that was never meant to accept it, and something odd happens. A receipt becomes a ticket. A token meant to verify becomes a token that multiplies. The server nods along because the client says everything is fine, and for a heartbeat, everything is. Then the second heartbeat lands, and suddenly the math does not add up. The first time it works, they laugh. The second time, they plan. With each paste, value duplicates. Digital goods appear from thin air. A marketplace meant to reward patience turns into a slot machine with a broken stop. Prices tumble as counterfeits flood the shelves. Honest players log in to see their hard work cheapened. The chat fills with whispers and accusations. The ones who found it call it a trick. The ones who use it call it a loophole. But everyone else calls it what it feels like, theft that does not need a mask. Developers scramble. Logs get pulled, flags get tripped. A fix moves from idea to emergency. The ban hammer swings, but it is always a step behind because the exploit is so simple, so ordinary, that it hides inside normal behavior. Copy here, paste there, move on. How do you detect a shortcut that every person uses every hour of every day? This is why it feels so overpowered. The exploit uses convenience against itself. The clipboard was built to help you remember. The form was built to help you move faster. All of it fueled by trust, and trust is the most vulnerable system of all. When that trust breaks, you do not just lose items or points. You lose the shared illusion that effort equals reward. The person who found it starts to rationalize. If the door is unlocked, is it really breaking in? If the game let it happen, is it really on me? But logs do not care about your late-night logic. Account names appear, transactions line up, real money starts looking like it changed hands without permission, and you realize there is a thin line between exploiting a glitch and committing a crime that just happens to be digital. The copy-paste exploit is not about code. It is about choices. When you find power in simplicity, what you do next decides who pays the price. Report it. Resist it. Because a shortcut that hurts everyone is not a life hack. It is a heist in slow motion, and the sirens arrive eventually. The sorry first exploit. A single word can pickpocket your boundaries. Watch how it slips in, softens the room, and walks out with what it wanted. The move is simple. Say sorry first. Lead with an apology before you even make the ask or commit the offence. It disarms, signals humility, and forces the listener into the role of the gracious forgiver. By the time you notice, you are already accommodating. Here is how it plays. Someone appears at a locked door, shoulders it open behind an employee and says, "Sorry, I am late," as they glide inside. In retail, a person dumps a used item on the counter with, "Sorry, I do not have the receipt," and pauses, creating a tiny stage where the clerk feels pressure to be kind. A co-worker sends, "Sorry for the short notice, could you cover this?" And the apology flips the frame from violation to mercy. Sales reps do it with calendars. "Sorry, I could only fit you in this afternoon," pretending constraint while imposing urgency. Parents hear it at school, pick up, "Sorry, we took his jacket by mistake," after the jacket has been used all weekend. Why it works is not magic. It is social gravity. An apology lowers threat, so your guard drops. It activates the script that polite people forgive, which makes resistance feel mean. It preloads guilt into the air, so saying no sounds like punishing a person who already feels bad. Most of all, it compresses time. People race to relieve awkwardness and end up granting requests they would reject if given a quiet minute. Unethical operators make it a habit. They trespass first, apologize second. They add a late fee, then say, "Sorry about the confusion," while keeping the money. They miss deadlines, then sorry their way into extra favors. The repeated pattern is not remorse, it is leverage. The apology becomes a crowbar that pops open doors meant to stay shut. You do not have to be a villain to get tangled in it. Busy, kind people get steamrolled because the exploit leans on their best traits. So train a simple reflex. When you hear a preloaded "sorry," separate the apology from the outcome. You can accept the feeling and still decline the request. "I hear you. I am not able to do that." Ask concrete questions that restore clarity. What exactly happened? What are you asking for? What changes next time? Name the behavior without drama. "I notice you often lead with sorry when plans have already changed." Hold the boundary and let the awkwardness sit on the person who created it. If needed, escalate to policy, not emotion. Real apologies are about repair. The sorry first exploit is about control. If someone keeps harvesting grace as a strategy, stop providing the crop. Kindness is for people who do better after they are forgiven, not for those who turn forgiveness into a tool. The compliment exploit. Slip a kindness into a conversation and watch doors swing open. That is the power of the compliment exploit. It sounds harmless, almost sweet, but when it is used with intent, it bends decisions, erases skepticism, and makes people say yes to things they would normally question. Here is how it works. A well-placed compliment hijacks a few predictable levers in the brain. We like people who like us. We want to confirm the good things they say. We feel a quiet pressure to give something back. So the moment someone praises you, even lightly, your guard dips. If that praise is specific, timely and tied to your identity, the effect multiplies. Tell a designer their layout is clever and they smile. Tell them you can see the way they protect white space to keep the eye calm. And now you are speaking their language. Trust slides closer. Once trust is near, the ask sneaks in. It might be tiny, a favor, a shortcut, a peek behind a door. Imagine a lobby, a receptionist balancing calls and chaos. You step up, eyes kind, and say you admire how they run the room without breaking a sweat. You point out a precise detail, like the way they group visitor badges to keep lines moving. Their body softens. Then you ask to drop a portfolio on a desk upstairs, just for a minute. You do not want to bother anyone. The badge appears. The door clicks. You are through. Nothing felt forced. That is why it is dangerous. In sales, the move is even cleaner. Praise the buyer's taste. Quote a line from a past interview. Frame your offer as aligned with their values. They want to be the person you just described, so they lean your way without noticing their feet moved. The compliment does not close the deal. It warms the room until friction disappears. Used ethically, a compliment is a gift. Used as a lever, it is almost unfair. The line is simple. If the praise is true, and you would say it without hoping to gain something, it is fine. If the praise is engineered to soften a no, you are gaming someone's need to feel seen. If you want to defend yourself, slow the moment down. Separate the praise from the next move. Say thank you, then pause. Ask yourself what is being asked and why. Notice if the compliment is oddly specific for a stranger or oddly convenient for what comes next. Name it silently. This is flattery. Then choose with clear eyes. The compliment exploit is powerful because kindness disarms. That is the trick. Keep your heart open and your hand on the lock. The Redirection Exploit. Picture this. You land a perfect headshot, see the hit marker flash, and then watch the kill feed hand the credit to a player sniping daisies on the other side of the map. That gut twist you feel. That is the Redirection Exploit in action, stealing outcomes and rerouting them like a magician switching cards under the table. Here is how it plays out. Most games track ownership of actions with invisible tags. Who fired, who hit, who gets credit, who takes blame. The Redirection Exploit messes with those tags. By forcing tiny desyncs, abusing party handoffs, or nudging the game's targeting to the last reported source, an exploiter can make your bullet look like it came from them, your heal look like it filled their bar, or your penalty land on a bystander. It is not God mode. It is bookkeeping theft. I watched an entire raid fall apart because of it. A squad pushed a boss, timed their abilities, and melted phases like clockwork. Then suddenly the boss enraged at zero reason, loot flagged to an idle ult, and the combat log insisted a healer outside the arena had triggered a forbidden mechanic. Arguments erupted, friendships cracked, and the real culprits sat quiet, smiling at the chaos they engineered by flipping a handful of ownership pointers at just the right second. Redirection shows up in a dozen sneaky ways. Projectiles that curl mid-flight to a player who never fired. Capture points that flip while the defenders stand on them. Bans or cooldowns, tripping on the wrong account after a scuffle. Trade windows where items leap to a mule you never invited. If the game believes the last valid tag, and someone can change that tag between an action and its confirmation, you get outcomes that feel impossible until you realize the pipeline was hijacked. Spotting it means listening to your instincts and the patterns. When the kill feed names ghosts. When damage reports credit spectators. When rewards stack where nobody stood. When the camera re-snaps to a target that should be out of line of sight. These are the breadcrumbs of a redirect. Collect them, record them, and report with calm detail. Raging in chat gives the exploiter what they want: noise. Stopping it is mostly on the builders. Lock the tag at creation, not at confirmation. Validate who could reasonably cause an event with line-of-sight checks, latency windows, and sanity rules that break chains of redirects. Limit leadership swaps. Treat teleports, revives, and phase transitions like bank transfers, with receipts that cannot be altered mid-flight. Every extra verification is a closed door to a grifter. There is a difference between playing clever and playing dirty. The Redirection Exploit does not test your skill. It empties someone else's pockets while you whistle. If you ever feel tempted, remember the faces on the other side and ask whether the win you get is worth what you become. The Fake Choice Exploit. The cleanest cons hide inside a choice. Not a threat, not a shout, just a velvet tray of options that all lead to the same lock clicking shut. That's the Fake Choice Exploit. It sounds harmless, even polite. Instead of buy this now, it's want the premium or the starter. Instead of work late, it's do you want to send the deck tonight or first thing at sunrise? The frame says you're in control. The reality says control already left the room. Here's how it plays out in real life. A waiter glides over while you're still scanning the menu. Water for the table. Still or sparkling? You pick one naturally. Only later do you realize tap water was never on the table, just like the question was never about thirst. Or picture a pushy sign-up screen. Continue with email, or continue with phone. No button that says, no thanks. You weren't deciding whether, you were deciding how. Psychologically, this is brutal because it kidnaps autonomy. We relax when we feel we're choosing. We resist when we feel cornered. The trick blends those signals. It gives the sensation of freedom while guiding you through a very narrow hallway. It taps fairness and the urge to cooperate. People try to be reasonable when presented with what seem like reasonable options. And once you've picked something, consistency kicks in. We stick to what we've already said out loud. Spotting it takes a small pause. Ask yourself, what's the option that isn't being named? If the frame is this or that, scan for neither. If the question is now or later, check for never. If the prompt is choose a plan, consider close the tab. Naming the hidden route breaks the spell. The moment you say it, the hallway grows a side door. When you need to decline, you don't owe an apology tour. A simple reset works. Hold on. Before I choose, I'm deciding whether I want this at all. You're not being difficult. You're reclaiming authorship. The contrast matters, not picking between boxes, but stepping outside the box entirely. That reframe shifts the power back to you, because you're switching from the default script to your own script. If you ever need to offer choices yourself, do it clean. Real choice includes the option to walk away. It includes time to think. It includes a plain, honest no. Anything less is choreography pretending to be consent. Remember, the fastest way to win a rigged game is to stop playing it. Slow your breath. Ask for the missing option. If it isn't there, write it in. Your attention is the vault. Your pause is the key. The small ask exploit. It begins with a favor so tiny you can balance it on the tip of a smile. A quick signature, a minute to chat, a harmless click on allow. By the time the real price shows up, your brain is already wearing the team jersey, cheering for a commitment you never meant to make. That is the small ask exploit. A quiet staircase that leads you somewhere you did not plan to go. Here is how it works. First, they land a micro yes, something so easy it feels rude to refuse. That yes puts a flag in your mind. You start to see yourself as the kind of person who helps, who cooperates, who is consistent. Then comes the turn. Since you already helped, would you mind doing a little more? Since you already said yes, it makes sense to just finish the job. They are not convincing you from zero. They are steering the momentum you gave them. Picture a stranger on the sidewalk with a clipboard. Could you sign to support cleaner parks? Of course. 30 seconds later, you are hearing about a monthly donation, an email list, a pledge to recruit friends. Or think about the office. Can you take a quick look at this deck? Sure, happy to help. Suddenly you are anchoring the project, staying late, owning outcomes you never agreed to. Online, it is a tiny checkbox for updates that quietly morphs into relentless notifications and pre-checked offers because you already opted in. The giveaway is the phrase that sneaks in after your first yes. Since you already, it will only take a little more. You are the perfect person for this. They lean on your need to be consistent, then wrap it in flattery or urgency. If you feel an odd pressure to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago, that tug is the exploit doing its work. Defense starts before the second ask. Name your boundary out loud, even to yourself. I can do this one small thing, and that is where I will stop. Separate the favor from the follow-up. I am happy to sign, but I do not make donations on the spot. I can review one slide, not join the project. Ask for the whole ask up front. If you needed everything today, what would that include? If they resist clarity, you have your answer. Use a personal policy as a shield. I do not commit at the door. I do not agree to ongoing messages. Consistency can serve you too. Kindness is not a contract. You can be generous with a small yes and firm with a bigger no. When the turn arrives, pause, reset to 0. If you would not accept the larger request in a cold start, do not accept it just because a tiny yes came first. The staircase only works if you keep climbing. You can stop on the first step. The mirror exploit. They never touched a keypad. They never flashed a badge. They walked through a locked world like it was their living room, and all they carried was a reflection. The mirror exploit isn't code, it's cadence. It's the soft theft of rhythm, posture, and language that makes strangers feel like teammates. You watch the target's face, you catch their sigh, you catch their pace, you sip their vowels. You reflect their mood so precisely that the room decides you belong before it checks who you are. The trick isn't saying the right thing, it's saying it the way they would. Psychologically, mirroring feelings lowers defenses and builds trust, because people move toward what feels familiar and safe. When someone hears their own emotional weather reflected back, their brain files you under us, not them. That's the door opening. That's the part that should make you a little uneasy. Here's what it looks like in real life. A lobby camera catches a rush hour stream of tired faces. An employee hustles in, shoulder slumped, mutters, "Wild morning, elevators are a mess." The exploiter, one step behind, matches the shoulder drop, mirrors the breathy frustration and echoes, "Wild morning, yeah, elevators jammed to the ceiling." They chuckle the same soft chuckle, tilt their head the same way, and drift into conversation already in motion. The guard glances up and sees a pair, not two individuals. Badges never come out. The door buzzes. The mirror did the work. It scales. Customer support queue. Repeat a caller's exact phrasing, mirror their urgency, and the system of kindness bends. Backstage access. Mirror the harried production assistant's clip tempo, adopt their jargon, and you ride their wave through a checkpoint meant for someone else. Game moderation. Mirror a mod's tone and values in chat. Align with their petty frustrations and watch how fast leniency arrives. Not charisma, not brilliance. Rhythm theft. The danger is how ordinary it feels. This exploit does not crash a server. It cruises on social autopilot. We are wired to reward anything that signals "you get me." When someone hits our pace, our guard drops by instinct. The criminal part is not the reflection. It's the intention behind it. So, how do you blunt it ethically? Add a little friction. Slow the pace. Ask a left-turn question that breaks the mimic chain. Notice when someone agrees with you too quickly, adopts your slang too fast, laughs at a joke you did not finish. Give yourself a beat to verify, not vibe. You can still be warm without surrendering verification to familiarity. Used well, mirroring is empathy. Used like this, it's a skeleton key. Name it when you feel it. When you call the mirror out, the glass loses its power. And the next time a stranger walks your rhythm toward a locked door, you will hear the echo for what it is. A copy, not a colleague. The Rulebook exploits. Doors do not need locks when the rulebook forgot to write them. That is the heart of the Rulebook exploit. Not hacking the system, but hugging it so tightly that it squeals. It looks clean, it looks polite, and if you are not watching closely, it looks fair. Picture a tournament where creativity earns points, but only the final submission is graded. Everyone sweats over bold ideas. One team reads the fine print and notices the grading, ignores process entirely. They spend their prep time building a library of ready-made parts labelled as examples. Then, during the event, they rearrange those parts into something shiny and new. They never break a rule. They just let the rules ignore what mattered. The judges cannot punish what the text does not say, and the scoreboard tilts like a table with one short leg. You see it in workplaces with attendance bonuses that pay the same no matter when you arrive. The letter says you must be present by morning, so someone strolls in 1 minute before lunch every day and still qualifies. The spirit wanted reliability. The rule rewarded loophole literacy. The manager fumes, HR shrugs, and the exploit lives another day. The move has 3 tells. First, literalism wrapped in courtesy. The exploiter smiles and says, "I am only following the rules," as if the syllables are a holy shield. Second, selective quoting. They frame the clause they need, trim the rest, and staple your mouth shut with your own policy. Third, escalation by boredom. They will outlast your patience, one email, one appeal, one polite nod at a time, until the path of least resistance becomes yes. And it works, because most systems are designed for good faith. Policies assume a shared sense of intent. But intent does not exist on paper. Words do. And words can be bent into shapes their writers never imagined. Calling it out takes nerve and clarity. You do not argue about feelings, you name the gap. You say, this behaviour fits the letter but violates the purpose, and until we align those two, we are paying people to miss the point. Then you fix it like a plumber, not a poet. Define the goal. Tie rewards to outcomes, not proxies. Add a catch-all. Actions that undermine intent are grounds for rejection. Cap anything that says unlimited. If something can be repeated, assume it will be, and set a limit before someone else does. Most importantly, remember that the rulebook is a map, not the terrain. When someone sprints along its edges, they are not clever. They are signalling where your boundary is drawn in chalk. Redraw it in ink. And do it fast, because the Rulebook exploit is not a glitch. It is gravity. It will pull every policy toward the lowest place it can find until you decide to lift it. The Confidence Exploit. A pressed shirt and a steady voice can open more doors than a master key. That is the Confidence Exploit. Not hacking systems, but hacking people. It looks harmless, almost helpful. Someone walks fast, smiles like they belong, drops a name, and the world politely makes space. Picture this. A stranger in a bright vest steps into a lobby, phone to ear, chin lifted. Facilities sent me, they say, not asking, informing. The guard hears certainty and waves them through. No badge, no paperwork, no pause. Later, everyone swears they remember the vest, the clipboard, the urgency, but no one checked the basics. Or imagine an email that lands at 4:50 on a Friday. Per our last conversation, wire the funds to the updated account. The subject line is calm. The tone is authoritative. You feel a gentle pressure to keep things moving, to not be the clog in the pipe. That is the moment the exploit cashes in. Confidence is a human shortcut. We are taught to follow calm voices, mirror steady breathing, trust firm posture. Add a dash of specificity and the brain trades analysis for relief. I just spoke with Maria on the 6th floor. Legal already greenlit this. I am late for the boardroom. Notice how that cadence slides past doubt. It is not just what they say, it is how they say it. No space for you to think, no room for you to ask. Watch for the tells. Speed. Urgency wrapped as helpfulness. Borrowed authority, like name-dropping and acronyms. Polite dismissal of process. A favour that becomes a test of your character. A subtle threat that you might be the reason people are delayed, embarrassed or disappointed. If you feel yourself treating protocol like red tape instead of guardrails, the exploit is working. Your defence is not aggression, it is friction. Slow the tempo. Replace their urgency with your routine. Use neutral phrases that do not escalate. Happy to help. I will verify that and get right back to you. Then step sideways to a second channel. Call the main line, not the number they gave. Walk to the desk you trust, not the office they point at. Ask for documentation you know how to validate. Write down names, times, and requests. Watch what happens when you introduce accountability. If their confidence cracks into irritation at basic checks, you are looking at the trick, not the truth. Confidence is not the enemy. The lack of verification is. Keep your tone warm, your questions simple, and your steps visible. Build a culture where no one loses face for pausing to confirm. The most overpowered exploit dies in daylight. And the person with the pressed shirt and steady voice, they can wait 1 minute while you do your job. The Scarcity Signal Exploit. A small red tag flickers beside the buy button, whispering only 3 left, and suddenly your pulse keeps time with it. That's the Scarcity Signal Exploit. A cheap, powerful trick that hijacks your urgency circuits and turns patience into panic. It starts with a seed, then it grows teeth. A countdown timer appears out of nowhere. An inventory meter dips just enough to make your stomach drop. A pop-up slides in, saying someone in your city just bought the last one. The mechanics are simple, the effect is not. We are wired to chase what might disappear. Scammers, shady marketers, even polished brands know this, so they manufacture vanishing acts on demand. Fake limits are the easiest move. They set a global cap to 3, not on stock, but on what the widget shows you. Refresh and it magically changes, up a little, down a little, tuned to keep you hovering. Timers come next. They do not count down to an event. They count down to your surrender. Let it hit 0, and a new timer rises from the ashes, renamed, repainted, endlessly reborn. Then comes social proof, the chorus that drowns your doubt. A stream of names claims they just bought what you want. Some are real, most are recycled, pulled from old lists, stamped with your location to make it feel personal. The checkout becomes a trap. They lock an item in your cart for a reservation window, then threaten to release it unless you pay now. They inflate shipping or add mystery fees, so backing out feels like losing money. They salt the path with sold-out sizes, ghost colours, and invite only variants to make the remaining choice feel like the last lifeboat. The pattern is always the same. Seed scarcity, amplify urgency, block exits, monetize the rush, break it by slowing the moment. If a timer exists, click away and return. If it resets, you know what it is. Open another browser or your phone on data and check the stock signal again. If a site says only 3 left, look for the same product on a different retailer and compare language. Search the brand, plus the words restock or drop, and see if the panic is scheduled. Sit with the discomfort for a single long breath, then another. Urgency shrinks in stillness. Ask yourself what future you would choose after sleep, not after a siren. Real scarcity usually carries context. A limited run with a stamp, a numbered batch, third-party confirmation, and a clear reason for the limit. Manufactured scarcity hides behind fog, vague timers and noise. You do not have to fight the tech with tech. You only have to refuse the script written for your adrenaline. When you ignore the pulse of that red tag, the spell breaks, the page goes quiet, and choice returns to you. The Deadline Exploit. The room is calm until the clock starts sounding like a countdown. That's when the Deadline Exploit walks in wearing a friendly smile. Not a hack in code, but a hack in human nature. It turns time into a weapon, urgency into a leash, and your judgment into collateral. Here's how it shows up. A late-night message lands with bright red urgency. Need sign-off tonight or the deal dies. A call hits support minutes before closing, and the rep, just trying to wrap the day, waves through an exception. A vendor hears, "We launch tomorrow," even though tomorrow is a mirage designed to squeeze free overtime. A promo screams, ends at midnight, then somehow resets every midnight. The clock isn't counting down, it's pushing you over. Why does it work? When time shrinks, attention narrows. You stop weighing choices and start reaching for exits. You avoid loss, fear missing out, and chase relief. The exploit feeds on that squeeze. It is not always illegal. It is often worse. It is plausible, deniable, and very effective. To run it, manipulators manufacture scarcity, stage dramatic stakes, and make the next hour sound like the last lifeboat. They tie their ask to a window that feels too small to question. They show you a van on the way, a courier downstairs, a scheduler waiting. If we slip tonight, everything breaks, they say, and suddenly you are saying yes to things you would refuse in daylight. But pressure is not destiny. The defense starts by moving from the clock to the criteria. Instead of racing their timer, ask what changes if you decide tomorrow. If the answer is nothing real, the urgency is theatre. Put the timeline in writing, because made-up deadlines hate paper. Shift from a deadline to a checklist. What must be true to proceed? If those conditions are not met, the time is irrelevant. Adopt a minimum review window and protect it. Say, I don't decide under a siren. Build cooling-off rules for contracts, discounts, or policy exceptions. Mirror their stakes back to them. You are saying everything collapses if this waits till morning. Spell that out. Make them teach you the risk. If they cannot, the clock loses its teeth. When you must decide fast, you can still decide clean. Name what you gain, what you give, and how you unwind if it fails. Offer an alternative path with smaller scope and clear exit ramps. Most rushers do not want clarity, they want your panic. Deny it. Use time. Do not let time use you. If you ever wield the deadline exploit yourself, keep it honest, keep it rare, and keep it reversible. Trust is slower to earn than any countdown. When someone swears the clock is your enemy, remember you can pick the time zone. The Politeness Exploit. Silence the alarms with a smile. That's the trick. The door that would clang shut for a demand swings open for a please, and the line that would hold firm for a shove goes wobbly for a gentle, sorry to be a bother. The Politeness Exploit feeds on a simple truth. Most people don't want to be the bad guy. We want to be fair, helpful, easy to work with. So when someone coats pressure in sugar, it slips past our filters. Psychologically, this plays on reciprocity and safety. If you show me respect, I feel safe and inclined to return the favour, even when it cuts against my own boundary or rule. Here's how it looks in real life. You're heading into a secure building. A stranger jogs up behind you, breathing hard. Oh, thank you so much. Mind if I slip in? I left my badge upstairs. You feel the urge to be gracious. It's just one door, 1 second, one little kindness. But inside that moment is a decision about everyone's safety. And the smile is doing a lot of work on behalf of a request that should face scrutiny. Or picture the retail counter. I know the return window closed yesterday, the customer says softly, and you've been so helpful already. I'd really hate to make this complicated. Notice the move. Praise, humility. A hint of you wouldn't do this to me, would you? Suddenly your policy feels like an insult instead of a standard. It happens in inboxes too. Quick favour, the email subject reads. Inside, no rush at all. If you could just prioritise this by the end of day, you'd be a lifesaver. No rush and end of day live side by side, like that's not a contradiction. It sounds light. It lands heavy. Politeness is not the villain. Weaponized politeness is. It is pressure in costume. The solution isn't to become rude, it's to become clear. Slow the moment down. Swap the instinct to please for the habit to name what's happening and set the frame. Try, I want to help, and I need to follow the badge policy. Happy to hold the door once you scan. Or, I hear this is important. To be fair to everyone, I'm keeping the queue order. I can get to it tomorrow morning. Or simply, I can't do that, but here's what I can do. When you speak both care and boundary in the same breath, you break the spell. You're not rejecting the person, you're rejecting the exploit. And an interesting thing happens. The people acting in good faith respect you more, not less. The ones running an angle drift away, looking for a door that opens faster. Kindness is powerful. Clarity is protection. Use both together. The silence gap exploit. Silence is not empty. It is a crowbar. The wrong people use it to pry open your guard, bend your boundaries, and lift what they want without leaving fingerprints. That move has a name. The silence gap exploit. No malware, no lockpick, just a pause that makes you do the work for them. Here is how it plays out. Someone drops a request that is too big, too fast, or too vague, then they go quiet. Your brain hates the void. You rush to fill the gap with explanations, discounts, extra favors, or the answer they were hoping to hear. They anchor high, mute their mic, and let your discomfort negotiate against you. A recruiter hints at a dream role, then vanishes after asking for your current salary. You email a lower number just to keep the conversation alive. A seller quotes a ridiculous price, then stops talking. You start bargaining with yourself, shaving dollars off your own offer. A manager says, "We really need a hero this weekend," then looks down and waits. You volunteer before they even ask. Online, it is worse. Read receipts become bait. The 3 dots appear, then vanish. A message is marked seen, then nothing. The gap drags your thoughts to the worst place, and you start sending clarifications, concessions, and proofs you did not owe. In meetings, the exploiter freezes after a loaded statement. The silence feels like gravity, and someone on the team breaks first, giving up detail, blame, or time. They stack the technique with guilt. You get, "I thought you were serious," followed by another long pause, or urgency. "We have to lock this by tonight," then the sound of nothing. The gap amplifies those lines until they feel like rules carved in stone. Here is the counter. Name the pause out loud and return the wait. I am going to take a moment to think, then sit with it. The gap cannot bite you if you choose it. Put terms on rails. I will confirm once I have the details in writing. No reply. The decision remains pending. Full stop. Trade silence for structure. Ask a clean question the gap cannot dodge. What is the exact scope, timeline, and rate? If they go quiet again, you stand still. No new information, no new commitments. Use time as armor. I do not make decisions on first contact. I will respond tomorrow. If they threaten to walk, let them walk. Urgency without clarity is a trap. And if the pause is being used to smuggle pressure or shame, call it. That sounds like a lot of weight in a short window. I am not taking that on. Silence can be a crowbar. It can also be a lock. The difference is who holds it. The name drop exploit. A first name can swing open doors like a master key. Not a badge, not a pin, just the right syllables delivered with confidence. That is the name drop exploit, and it preys on a simple reflex. When you hear a familiar name, your brain relaxes, your guard lowers, and courtesy outruns caution. Here is how it plays out. You walk into a lobby with a clipboard and a calm smile. The receptionist looks up. You do not ask permission, you anchor familiarity. "I am here for Taylor, running late from the finance rollout. Can you buzz me up?" No company name, no full title. Only a first name that sounds like it belongs. You keep moving as you speak, letting urgency do the push. If the receptionist hesitates, you layer detail just enough to feel real. Taylor flagged the switch issue after yesterday's reconciliation. I am supposed to swap the uplink before lunch. You are not proving. You are reminding them of what they think they already know. Authority bias does the heavy lifting. People avoid embarrassing an insider, and a first name paints you as one. Specificity seals it. You toss in the floor number, the project nickname you scraped from social posts, a casual "I was with Jess in ops last week." Too much detail smells rehearsed. The art is sprinkling, not dumping. The tone is key, low, warm, a tired pro fixing a mess no one wants. If they ask for a contact, you steer. Tailors in back-to-back meetings, said to grab a temp badge and save the day. You hand the clipboard as if the process is already agreed, pen uncapped, gratitude preloaded. You are saving me. Thank you. That line forces a tiny social contract. People live up to the roles we assign them, and now they are the helper, the solver, the person who keeps things moving. When pressed, you pivot to pressure. If the switch stays, payroll slips, and everyone yells. No threats, only consequences that make delay feel unsafe. If they call a number, you make sure it is yours or a prepped accomplice. If they walk you to the elevator, you accept the escort, because proximity reads as permission to everyone else you pass. The damage from one good name drop is ugly. Access to floors, screens left unlocked, photos of whiteboards, printers spilling org charts, deliveries redirected, invoices paid on nothing but confidence and a familiar first name. Stopping it is simple, not easy. Kill the clock? No one moves fast without a verified work order. Verify names through an internal directory you control, not numbers offered by the visitor. Require a second internal confirmation for any unscheduled access. Train a single phrase until it is muscle memory. I need to verify this independently. Make courtesy follow policy, not replace it. And remember, real familiarity withstands friction. A fake melts the moment you apply it. The Whisper Exploit. The quietest move on the board is the dirtiest one. A whisper that bends the room. Someone leans closer, drops their voice to a hush, and suddenly it feels like the rest of the world is on mute. Decisions slide through that tiny doorway because no one wants to look like the person who says, "Hey, can we bring this into the light?" That is the Whisper Exploit. It feels harmless. It is anything but. Here is why it works. A lowered voice signals safety, intimacy, exclusivity. Psychologically, that combo softens resistance. We lean in, we listen harder. Our guard dips because our brains read the cue as closeness, not caution. It lowers defenses and invites agreement before our logic has fully arrived. Add in curiosity and the illusion of scarcity and you have an overpowered nudge. Not a better argument, just a quieter one that steals the mic. But power without consent is manipulation. And that is the reframe we need. Not secret, but shared clarity. Not hush, but honest volume. The real test of an idea is whether it stands when everyone can hear it, not just the few pulled into a corner. Picture a status meeting. Deadlines are tight, tension is up. A teammate slides beside you and whispers, "We can skip the review, no one will notice." The room starts nodding along to a decision it did not get to hear. This is where the counterplay lives. Name the move, then widen the circle. You say, "Let's keep this on the record." If skipping review is smart, it will still be smart at full volume. Then you lift the conversation back to the table. Now the idea has to meet questions, and healthy friction does what whispers will not. It protects trust and raises the quality bar. Real stories like this are how the principle becomes more than theory. Little bits of dialogue make the pattern unmistakable in everyday life. Sometimes the exploit comes dressed as care. A boss lowers their voice to say, "You and I know what needs to happen." Or a friend confides just between us, "Do not loop them in yet." The tone feels warm. The impact is cold. Secrets borrow your credibility to bypass someone else's boundaries. When we catch it, We can soften our tone without shrinking our ethics. A simple line helps. I want to be helpful and transparent. Let us include them now, not later. It is firm without being combative, and it resets the signal from intimacy to integrity. Use your voice like a light, not a lockpick. The whisper exploit wins quickly and loses slowly, trading small relief for bigger problems down the road. If the truth matters, give it air. If the idea is strong, let it be heard. That is the strongest play we have. Not control, but consent. Not the quiet that hides, the clarity that holds. The guilt trade exploit. It starts with a sigh and a silence that stretches one beat too long. Then a soft confession, something that makes your chest tighten. You feel the pull to be decent, to step in, to fix it. That's the opening move of the guilt trade exploit, where emotion turns into a contract you never signed. Here is the shape of it. Someone preloads the room with vulnerability. They are exhausted, overwhelmed, misunderstood. They say they hate asking, they never ask, but this time is different. They offer you a backstage pass to their struggle, and once you accept it, your empathy becomes collateral. The favour arrives dressed as a tiny thing, a small exception, a quick yes. Tiny turns into routine. Routine turns into expectation. An expectation becomes a debt, with interest you never agreed to pay. It sounds like flattery. You are the only person who gets it. You are the reliable one, the kind one, the one with a good heart. It sounds like urgency. If this doesn't happen today, someone will suffer. It sounds like moral math. After all I've done for you, after everything I shared, you wouldn't leave me hanging, would you? When you hesitate, the exploit doubles down. The story escalates, stakes climb, the clock gets louder. The words shift from asking to shaping your identity. A good friend would, a true teammate would, a decent person would. Your answer becomes a referendum on your character, not a decision about your time, energy, or boundaries. And if you push back, the roles invert. They become the wronged party, wounded by your resistance. The apology arrives wrapped in thorns. I am sorry for being such a burden. Now you are soothing the person who just moved the goalpost. The exploit ends with public gratitude that locks you in place. Remember how amazing you were when you saved the day. That praise becomes a trap for the next request. You know you are in the guilt trade when you feel a debt without a receipt, a timer without a deadline, a choice that is no choice at all. Watch for phrases that smuggle obligation. You are my only hope. Don't make me look bad. I would do it for you. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. That is not the question. The real question is whether your yes is free. Disarming it starts with naming it. Say what you see without blame. I hear the urgency, and I am noticing I feel pressured. Then set terms in plain language. Here is what I can do. Here is what I cannot do. Offer a smaller, bounded help if you want, or offer none at all. Refuse the false clock. If it must be done now, it cannot be me. Return the emotional package to its sender. Their feelings are theirs to hold. Guilt is a currency. The exploit is the exchange rate. Keep yours fair, or someone else will spend your life for you. The as-if-normal exploit. Nothing lowers defences faster than a smile and a clipboard. That is the core of the as-if-normal exploit. Do something questionable while acting like it is the most routine thing in the world, and people step aside to let it happen. The trick does not need fancy tech or brute force. It needs a steady tone, a confident pace, and the theatre of everyday life. Picture someone strolling into a restricted office carrying a box and wearing a lanyard. They wave, they joke about the elevator, they ask someone to hold the door. No lies, no threats, just movement that says, this is normal. The human brain loves patterns. When something looks ordinary, we match it and go along. It shows up in emails too. A request for a quick wire transfer written in calm, familiar language. A line that reads, "Jumping on a call now, can you take care of this?" It sounds like Tuesday. It smells like routine. It slices through your caution because the sender writes as if you already agreed. Salespeople do it with phrases like, "I will get the paperwork started." Not, "Do you want this?" but "We are already doing this." Landlords say, "Everyone signs this extra form," and your pen is suddenly in your hand. A delivery driver announces, "Building policy says I need the side entrance," even when no such policy exists. Apps make a paid renewal the default and tuck the cancel button in a corner. Each move says the same thing, "Nothing to see here." The mechanics are simple. Move at a comfortable speed so people do not have time to think. Borrow credibility with props, a uniform, a calm voice, a name that sounds familiar. Use soft verbs like confirm, finalize, update. Replace questions with presumptions. And if someone hesitates, add a little social proof. Everyone else already did this. You do not want to be the difficult one. So how do you shut it down without turning into a statue of no? Break the script. Slow the pace. Say, pause, what are we doing and why? Ask for the source. Show me the policy. What department are you with? Where can I verify this number? Move the interaction to an official channel that you control. I will not act on this email. I will call the known office line. Create your own default. My normal is to double check. Speak it out loud. That one sentence resets the frame. Notice the tells. Presumptive language. Rushing. Pre-checked boxes. Vague authority. A request that skips your usual process. When you spot them, switch from polite autopilot to deliberate mode. No drama, no apology, just firm, simple steps. The as if normal exploit is powerful because it uses your goodness against you. Keep your kindness. Keep your professionalism. Pair them with a habit of verification. Let others perform normal. You decide what normal means. Normal? The Overwhelm Exploit. They bury you in noise until your instincts go quiet. Notifications stack, alerts flash, options multiply, and suddenly the only thing that seems safe is doing whatever the loudest voice demands. That is the Overwhelm Exploit. And it works because your brain under pressure trades careful thinking for fast compliance. Here is the play. Instead of arguing with you, they pick a fight with your attention. Too many choices, too much detail, too little time, an urgent tone that sounds authoritative, a sprinkle of fear and a dash of shame. You are not supposed to evaluate, you are supposed to surrender. Picture a checkout page that keeps blooming with add-ons, countdowns and pop-ups, while a chat window insists there is a problem that must be fixed right now. Picture your phone buzzing with stacked messages, each more urgent than the last, while a voice tells you a deadline is about to slam shut. The point isn't any single prompt. The point is the flood. Under overload, your mind flips from deliberate to automatic. You choose the path that promises relief, not the path that promises sense. That is why the exploit feels almost unfair. It does not need to be smart if it can make you tired. The mechanics are simple. Speed compresses your options. Complexity hides the trap in plain sight. Authority provides a false anchor. Urgency locks the door behind you. Shame stops you from asking for a pause. When all of those stack, even careful people make reckless choices. There are tells. If every step creates new steps, if clarity never improves no matter how much you read, if the pressure rises the closer you get to deciding, you are inside the machinery. If the person on the other end gets calmer as you get more rattled, you are not in a conversation, you are in a funnel. There is a way out. Name it out loud. This is overwhelm. The moment you label the tactic, the spell thins. Slow the scene. Breathe in, breathe out. Let your pulse catch up. Reduce the inputs by closing tabs, silencing pings, or stepping away from the counter. Ask for a summary in plain words, and commit to deciding only after you can rest your eyes on a single page. Set one question as your compass. What happens if I do nothing for a little while? Real opportunities survive a pause. Real professionals respect a pause. Exploits cannot afford a pause. Then draw a line. No decisions while rushed. No secrets shared to stop a clock. No payments under pressure. If they claim the sky will fall, make them prove it after the sun comes up. The Overwhelm Exploit only wins when you play fast. Move slow, and the noise becomes what it always was, distraction, pretending to be destiny. The Familiarity Exploit. It starts with a name you recognize, a logo that looks right, and a tone that feels like a co-worker leaning over your desk. That's the Familiarity Exploit. It slips past your defenses, not with force, but with comfort. Psychologically, our brains lean toward what we have seen before. Recognition feels like safety, and fluency feels like truth. Picture this. A message pops up. Quick thing, can you resend the vendor list? Finance needs it. The photo looks like your manager. The signature matches, the urgency feels normal. Or an email labeled re-payroll correction lands at 9 in the morning when you usually check HR updates. Your mind hums, not with alarm, but with routine. You click, because clicking is what you always do. It's not just screens. In the lobby, a person with a tool bag smiles and says, "Forgot my badge. Mind holding the door?" They know the floor number. They know the building's smell. Familiarity, again, lowers the drawbridge. Here's the turn. The defense is not paranoia, it's pause, a tiny, deliberate beat that breaks the spell of recognition. In high-stakes environments, people use structured pauses to improve decisions. A brief stop widens attention and reduces impulsive errors. Borrow that wisdom. Take one breath longer than usual before you comply. In practice, it sounds like this. Happy to help. What ticket number should I log this under? If it is real, they will have it. Can you send that request from the directory address on file? A legitimate sender can. Let's badge you in properly. Security can print a temporary. A contractor who belongs will not mind. These are not accusations. They are small checkpoints that transform familiarity into verification. The reframe is simple. Not trust first, check later, but check first, then trust. We are not wired for endless suspicion, and we do not need to be. We just need to shift the default sequence so comfort comes after contact, not before it. That small shift changes outcomes because it interrupts the automatic move from recognition to compliance. You can even narrate it to yourself. Name the cue. This feels familiar. Name the risk. Familiar is not the same as safe. Name the action. One small check. Saying it out loud turns a vague hunch into a concrete step, and concrete steps are easier to follow. Familiarity is a wonderful thing when it is earned, between teammates who show up, systems that behave consistently, routines that make life smoother. But that same warmth can be borrowed by anyone willing to mimic it. So keep your welcome, keep your kindness, and add 1 second of friction. Hold the door, yes. After the badge, share the file, yes. After the ticket, answer the request, yes. After the verification, friendly, not gullible. Open, not naive. That is how you disarm the familiarity exploit without hardening your heart. The default setting exploit. The quietest trick in tech is a checkbox you never saw. You rush through a sign-up, tap continue, and the rails are already laid, not to push you somewhere dramatic, just a gentle nudge toward what most people do. And what most people do is keep moving. The exploit hides in that motion. Call it the default setting exploit. The most overpowered move isn't breaking your defenses, it's setting your choices for you, not by force, but by default. You feel free because no one said no, they just arranged the yes ahead of time. That's the trap. The path of least resistance wears a friendly smile. Picture this. You start a free trial for a new service. Music playing, coffee cooling. You accept the terms and drift through the flow. Auto-renew is already on. Email updates are already on. Location sharing, contact sync, improve our product. All waiting green by default. It's not malicious at a glance. It's convenient. And convenience is a velvet rope guiding you past the exits. Psychologically, our brains favour frictionless decisions. Status quo feels safe, familiar, and honest because it asks nothing extra of us. That's why an unchecked box can feel like work, while a pre-checked one feels like help. Habituation kicks in too. After the third pop-up, our attention stops flinching, so we sail through without seeing what toggled on behind the scenes. Designers know this. The best, do it to reduce confusion. The worst, do it to reduce your choices. Here's the sneaky part. A default doesn't just make one decision. It sets a pattern. If your calendar joins meetings with your mic on by default, you learn to mute after the awkward moment. If your phone shares precise location by default, you learn to live with it rather than hunt for buried settings. One default begets another. Before long, the platform isn't following you. You're following it. The counter isn't paranoia. It's building your own defaults. Pause at the moment of setup and look for the word custom. If you can't find it, add a deliberate speed bump. Create a calendar nudge 2 days before a trial ends. A rule to review permissions once a month. A habit of searching privacy inside settings. Small frictions by your design shift you off the rails. And when a product's recommended option glows brighter than the rest, ask yourself who it's recommended for. The company or the person paying with time, data, and attention. The strongest move you have is not resistance, but reframing. You do not need to fight every toggle. You just need to choose the first one on purpose. Because the default setting exploit only wins when you drift. If you decide the defaults, the exploit collapses. That's the quietest upgrade of all. Moving from being guided to being the guide, not by force, but by your own default. The one more step exploit. Blink and you miss it. A tiny banner that whispers, there's just one more step. That's the doorway to an exploit so sneaky it hides in plain sight. The one more step is a pressure valve for your brain, weaponizing completion bias, sunk cost, and the itch to finish what you started. You are on step 3 of 3, the bar is full. You can almost taste the finish line, and then a polite nudge appears. Just one more step? You comply because stopping now feels wrong. Here is how it plays out. You try to cancel a subscription. The site says, to protect your account, there is one more step. Suddenly you are detoured to a phone call, a chatbot that never ends, or a page with a pre-checked box that changes your plan instead of ending it. You try to withdraw your money from some sketchy trading app, and a pop-up insists on a final verification that requires a deposit. You enter a giveaway, then get asked to complete one more step by adding a card for a free trial you never wanted. Your brain argues, we have come this far. What is a few more seconds? That is the trap snapping shut. This exploit works because commitment is sticky. Once we choose a path publicly or even privately, we feel pulled to behave consistently. Pair that with the Zeigarnik itch to finish incomplete tasks, plus the fear of losing progress, and the con becomes self-propelling. Dark patterns wrap it in friendly language. Confirm for your security, finalize to keep your place, complete to unlock benefits. The final click is where terms expand. Defaults flip to recurring billing, contact lists get accessed, or new permissions get granted. In the worst cases, criminals mimic a platform and use the one more step to harvest credentials or push you into sending money, all under the banner of completing what you started. There are ways to fight back. When you see one more step, pause on purpose. Ask what new permission, cost, or risk is being introduced that was not there before. Scan for pre-checked boxes and tiny grey text that changes the deal. If a service demands a deposit to release your own funds, walk away. Do not send new money to retrieve old money. Use email aliases and virtual cards with hard limits for trials. For high-risk actions like closing accounts, use channels you control, documented chat, support email, or a cancellation page found through your account settings rather than a pop-up. One more step can be ethical when it truly prevents harm, like confirming a dangerous deletion. But when it moves the goalposts, it is an exploit. The antidote is simple and stubborn. Treat every surprise step as a fresh decision, not a finish line you are obligated to cross. The Flattery Mask Exploit. Sugar on a poison pill tastes sweet, right up to the last bite. That is the Flattery Mask Exploit. The con where praise is used like camouflage so you never see the teeth. It starts simple. A flood of compliments that feel custom-made, not just about what you do, but about who you are, your taste, your kindness, your supposed genius. Your guard drops, your dopamine pops, and in that warm glow, the ask slides in. Sign this, approve that, join here, invest there, lend a hand just this once. The sweetness is not the meal. It is the bait. Why does it work? Because flattery feels like recognition. It mirrors your best story about yourself, and we all want our best story to be true. The trickster counts on that hunger. They will study your posts, your work, your values, then echo them back until you feel seen. In the office, it might sound like you are the only one who understands this client. Could you push this past compliance today? In sales, it becomes your instincts are elite. A person like you will not need the cooling off period. In romance or friendship, it is, I have never met someone as grounded as you. So can I crash at your place for a few weeks while I sort things out? Watch the timing. Real admiration wanders. Exploitative flattery pounces. The compliments spike right before a request, right after a boundary, or right when you show doubt. Watch the specificity. Real praise is textured and sometimes awkward. The exploit is glossy and generic, perfectly phrased, strangely frictionless. Watch the urgency. If the praise comes bundled with a rush, a countdown or a guilt trip, it is probably a mask. Here is how you unmask it. First, pause on praise. Let every compliment age at least one beat before you agree to anything. If you cannot say yes slowly, say no politely. Second, split signal from request. Repeat the ask in plain words without the honey around it and check how it sounds to your colder brain. Third, test with a gentle no. Real respect survives no. Manipulation escalates or pivots to a new angle. Fourth, seek a witness. Read the pitch to someone who does not crave that particular praise and hear their face. Fifth, put everything in writing. Exploits hate paper trails. Also, study your own sweet tooth. Which compliments make you float? Call them out by name, so when they arrive, you can enjoy the flavour without swallowing the hook. Real admiration will still be there tomorrow. Exploitation evaporates when you remove the rush and demand clarity. You are not hard-hearted for questioning praise. You are simply refusing to rent your trust to the highest flatterer. Let kindness stay warm, and your boundaries stay firm, and the mask will fall on its own. The Bystander Exploit. A man in a bright safety vest sets down a ladder in the lobby, smiles at the front desk, and every door he passes seems to unlock itself. No badge flash. No paperwork, just momentum. That is the Bystander Exploit. It turns our most ordinary instinct, someone else will handle it, into a key that opens places it should never open. When a situation looks official and everyone is busy, people hesitate to be the one who slows it down. Authority cues do the heavy lifting. The vest, the clipboard, the walkie-talkie, the confident stride, the tone that says, "I belong here." Add a little urgency, maybe a hint of inconvenience if someone questions it, and the path clears on its own. It does not even need a costume. Sometimes it is a shared assumption. If one person waves someone through, the next person assumes the check already happened. If two people glance away, the third assumes there is nothing to see. We call it politeness. We call it efficiency. It is really diffusion of responsibility, and it is wildly abusable. Think of how many doors only ask for a badge, but will swing open if a stranger follows right behind someone with full hands. Think of deliveries that materialize on carts, signatures that get scribbled when a line is forming, requests that look routine because the email or the tone feels routine. The exploiter does not have to defeat a lock. They only have to borrow your certainty that someone else did. That is why this is so overpowered. It bends social rules instead of security rules. Challenge a lock and it resists. Challenge a script and it defends itself. No one wants to be rude. No one wants to be the person who stops the elevator or says, "Sorry, who are you with?" So the exploit keeps paying out. The defense is not complicated, but it is uncomfortable. It asks for a tiny pause and a simple checkpoint that belongs to everyone, not just the person with the job title. Own your gate, even if the gate is just the space in front of you. If your badge opened a door, do not feel obligated to hold it for a stranger without a visible credential. If someone invokes urgency to skip a step, slow the tempo with a calm question, the kind that cannot be faked with confidence. Who requested this? What ticket number should I reference? Which manager can confirm? If you are the person at the desk and the crowd is building, use a polite default, like "I can help you as soon as I can verify." You are not being difficult. You are removing the one ingredient the exploit needs: passive consent. The truth is, most criminals do not break in. They are shown in by people who were trying to be helpful. The cure is not suspicion of everyone. It is ownership of your small part. The moment you claim that, the Bystander Exploit breaks. The Overconfidence Exploit. It starts with a smile that says, "This is already settled." Not pushy, not loud, just certain. Certainty is a key that opens doors people swear are locked. And the worst part is how fast they hold the door for it. The Overconfidence Exploit feeds on pride in disguise. Make someone feel like the expert in the room, and they stop checking. Sound so sure of yourself that second guesses die before they are born. When certainty shows up dressed like competence, almost no one asks for the badge. I watched a team lead greenlight a change because an engineer spoke like a metronome. No pauses, no hedging, just fluent confidence and familiar jargon strung together like pearls. It felt safe. Hours later, the system buckled, and everyone kept saying the same line. It sounded right. That is the trick. It does not need to be right. It only needs to sound right faster than you can feel doubt. This exploit works both on people who think they are too smart to be fooled and on people who are relieved someone else seems to know what they are doing. Praise the first group, and they will perform their expertise for you, filling in blanks you never had to ask about. Comfort the second, and they will hand you the pen, the pass, the approval. Pride and relief are two sides of the same unlocked door. Listen to the beats. Certainty sets the tempo, names a timeline, drops acronyms, and frames dissent as delay. It anchors with a phrase like, "as you already know," and you start nodding before your brain has a chance to check. It uses momentum like a magician uses patter. Keep moving, keep talking, and the handoff happens on autopilot. The damage looks ordinary until it is not. A quiet sign-off that routes money to the wrong place. A meeting where no one wants to be the friction and a risky assumption sails through. A production push that turns into a night of fire drills. None of it looks like a break-in. It looks like confidence winning. There is a way to fight back. Slow the tempo. Make doubt a job, not a personality flaw. Write decisions before speaking them, so the logic has to sit under a light. Ask for a reason, not a vibe. Require a second voice for anything that moves money, data, or access, and rotate who that second voice is. So friendship is not the shortcut. Invite the quiet person to go first. Run a quick pre-mortem and make someone argue the other side like they mean it. Confidence is not bad. Counterfeit confidence is. Learn the feel of both. You can keep the door open to speed and still keep the lock for safety. The trick is refusing to confuse smooth with true. The loudest voice. Exploit. Crank the volume and watch the room tilt. That's the loudest voice exploit. A cheap power-up that runs on decibels, speed and certainty. It isn't about being right. It's about being first, being fast, and being relentless until the room mistakes force for fact. When the volume climbs, nuance gets shoved to the back row, and suddenly the biggest claim looks like the safest bet. Picture a team stand-up. A deadline slips. Before anyone breathes, one person barrels in, loud, certain. It's obvious what happened. We wasted time. Heads nod, not because the case is airtight, but because the case is loud. The room bumps into a simple trap. Confidence sounds like competence. Repetition sounds like truth. Interruptions splinter thinking into tiny pieces, so there's no space left to assemble a counterpoint. And once a chorus forms, silence starts to feel like agreement, even when it's just shock. Online, the exploit mutates. Caps, rapid replies, and dogpiled certainty prime the scroll. In group chats, the same move wins the hour. At a dinner table, the same move wins the story. It's overpowered because it hijacks a few shortcuts our brains use to keep up. The loudest voice creates a fake urgency. An urgency begs for a quick conclusion. Quick conclusions sound like leadership. And that is how bluster walks out with the trophy. So how do we break it without becoming it? Slow the room. Name the move. We're prioritizing volume over value right now. The moment it's labelled, it loses some magic. The room hears the trick and remembers to look for substance underneath the sound. Then set simple guardrails. Call on the quiet expert first. Give each person a clean window to speak. Insert small pauses after big claims so the group can actually think. It is amazing what a measured beat can do for clarity and better decisions. Protect comprehension like it is oxygen. Ask, what did you hear them say? Reconstruct the argument, steel strong before debating it. When people feel seen and understood, real conversation opens up, and the loudest, blindest take no longer controls the map. Reward signal, not noise. Praise the person who changes their mind when presented with better evidence. Ask for a one-sentence summary of the actual claim. Ask what would change their mind. Enforce time by the clock, not by lung capacity. Make clarity a status symbol and watch the exploit deflate. Here is the twist. Volume is not the villain. Intention is. Use a strong voice to hold the door for quieter ones. Use energy to push ideas forward, not people aside. Some moments deserve thunder. Many need light. The win is not to outshout a shouter. The win is to make sure the best idea is the loudest thing in the room. Turn the courage up. turn the noise down, and let the loudest voice be the one speaking truth. The Scarcity Exploit. The ugliest line on my body once made me unstoppable. Not faster or smarter, just untouchable. A pale ridge, a quick glance, and doors opened that should have stayed shut. I learned the Scarcity Exploit by accident. The first time I got waved past a line I had no right to skip. I rubbed the mark, went quiet, let someone notice, then offered a careful, painful sentence. The air softened, rules bent. That's when I realized how dangerous this is. Here's how it works. A scar is proof without paperwork. It's hardship you can show. A shortcut to credibility that hijacks empathy and guilt. People want to feel decent. They want to be the person who gives grace, not the person who denies it. So the scar story creates a trap door under their logic. You reveal a wound, real or artfully framed, and attach it to whatever you want in that moment. A refund, a deadline extension, a lenient judgment, a private access, a favour that would normally take weeks. Their brain files your request next to survival, not policy. The script is disarmingly simple. Start with quiet. Touch the scar like you didn't mean to. Let them ask, then answer in only a few words. Enough to draw a picture without detail. Name a doctor or a night to anchor it in reality. Sprinkle a small self-blame to sound honest. Then pivot fast into the ask. Not like a demand, but like relief. It would mean a lot if we could push this through. I'm not trying to make it a thing, just need some mercy today. Lock it with gratitude before they decide. People chase the feeling you just promised. Used well, this thing bulldozes resistance. I have seen bouncers unclip ropes, managers override systems, and strangers lend trust that took months to earn. One scar becomes a universal voucher, proof that you've suffered, therefore you must be safe. That's the lie. Pain does not equal integrity. But the exploit works because it collapses the gap. If you're on the receiving end, watch for the pivot. The story lands and the request arrives quickly, riding the wave of your empathy. Separate the two. You can acknowledge the hurt without buying the pitch. Ask for what you'd ask anyone else. Add time before you decide. If they push while you're still processing, that urgency is part of the trick. Real vulnerability is patient. Performance is not. If you're tempted to use it, remember this. Every time you win with a wound, you teach yourself to bleed for leverage. That turns healing into a hustle. Keep your scars for your story, not your strategy. The world bends easily when you hold up a hurt. The stronger move is to stand straight and earn the yes. The Blame Shift Exploit. A fire starts in the hallway, and by the time the smoke clears, the only person coughing is the one who tried to pull the alarm. That is the Blame Shift Exploit. A slick little move where responsibility slides off the guilty like rain, off a waxed car, and lands squarely on whoever is nearby, quiet or too honest to fight back. Here is how it works. First, the exploiter sets the stage with fog. Vague goals, fuzzy roles, and casual verbal promises. Nothing is written, everything is implied. When there is no clear line, it is easy to pretend someone else crossed it. Next, they preload a story. Small comments to the right ears that you are behind, you are emotional, you are not a team player. Then comes the trigger event. A missed deadline, a failed deal, a mess that was never truly owned by anyone. Suddenly the narrative snaps into place. The fog becomes evidence. The whispers become truth. And you, who were trying to help, are now the problem that needs to be solved. Watch the language when it hits. Passive voice blossoms like mold. Mistakes were made. Expectations were not met. The subject vanishes. The verbs float and accountability evaporates. You also hear time pressure. We have to fix this now. We cannot get stuck in who did what. They call that pragmatism. It is really an eraser. There is a classic corporate version. A leader approves a risky shortcut in a hallway conversation. Later, the shortcut explodes. The leader remembers approving speed, not the shortcut. The email thread is quiet. The project charter is vague, and the person who carried the work is the only name linked to the broken outcome. There is a social version too. Someone starts drama, then runs to play referee, pointing to your tone, your reaction, your supposed overstep. You become the spectacle. They become the solution. When you feel the blame shifting under your feet, slow the room down. Ask clean. Anchor questions. What decision was made? By whom and when? What was the agreed definition of done? What constraints were documented? Keep it calm, keep it short, and refuse to debate feelings before facts. If nothing is written, write it. Summarize in plain language, time-stamp it, and send it to everyone involved. Silence is not neutral in this game. It is consent you never meant to give. Learn the counters. Clarify roles before you start, not after the fire. Say what you own and what you do not. Repeat it out loud. Park urgent. Fix theatrics until the chain of decisions is visible. Do not accept a fake choice between solving the problem and naming the cause. You can do both. The blame shift. Exploit only works in fog. Turn on the lights and watch the real owner blink. The authority tone exploit. Clip a badge to your voice and people hand you their keys. That is the authority tone exploit, not a role, not a uniform, just a sound. It is the cadence that says we are already past debate. The sentences land flat, firm, and fast, like stamps on paper. The pause is short enough to leave no room for questions. The pitch sits low, the pace is steady, and the words are built from certainty, not opinion. When done right, strangers will move aside, sign forms, and apologize for being in your way. It works because the brain loves shortcuts. Authority is the shortcut for truth. When a voice arrives, packaged with confidence and inevitability, the listener borrows its conclusion and spends no more energy checking the math. Add a little time pressure, and the shortcut becomes a slide. People fear the social cost of slowing down a confident person who sounds official. No one wants to be the obstacle, especially when the tone implies everyone else has already agreed. The blueprint is simple. Start inside the finish line. Phrases like, as we finalized per policy, or as you already saw, frame the action as a continuation, not an initiation. Sprinkle institutional glue, compliance, verification, audit window, service continuity. Then cross the bridge from command to reason. You don't say, please reset your credentials. You say, initiate the reset to maintain compliance. The command leads, the reason cushions, and the target obeys while thinking they chose. The exploit thrives on borrowed credibility. Name a department, then a person, then a system. Keep the nouns heavy and the verbs light. We've got procurement, Lauren from legal, and the vendor portal pending sign-off, so escalate your signature now. Even if none of that is real, the stack sounds like an itinerary the listener has already missed. That fear of being late becomes your engine. Listen to the music of it. Relentless certainty. Clean, punchy verbs. Micro pauses that suggest you are waiting for them to catch up, not to decide. And always the ticking clock. We have a 30-minute window. The auditor is dialed in. Security is already notified. Urgency turns deference into action. Defense exists, but it is uncomfortable. Good defenses feel rude. Ask for a written summary. Name the decision you are being asked to make. Slow the tempo. Genuine authority can survive friction. Exploitative authority suffocates when the room fills with questions. The authority tone exploit is powerful because it hijacks manners, speed, and fear of embarrassment. You will hear it on the phone, in meetings, at doors, and in your inbox. Remember, a confident tone is not a credential. If the story arrives already finished, rewind it yourself. The status exploit. It looks like magic. A cheap blazer, a plastic lanyard, a calm walk, and doors just open. Not because the person is special, because the costume tells our brain they belong. That snap judgment is the status exploit. Here's how it plays out. A stranger enters a lobby with a toolbox and a fluorescent vest. Security glances up, then waves them through. No fuss. The queue did the work. Or someone phones a manager and drops a name with steady confidence. Suddenly, policy bends. People say yes faster than they can explain why. It feels harmless, even helpful. That is the trap. Under the hood, status shortcuts trigger a reflex. Authority signals, insider language. Scarcity, 5 minutes only. Urgency, systems are down. The combo overloads the part of you that wants to check and feeds the part of you that wants to be agreeable. Psychologically, symbols of status create a sense of safety and lower defenses, which is why a confident badge can feel like a key rather than a prop. The move is simple. Look like the person who gets a yes. Talk like the person who gets a yes. Stand like the person who gets a yes. The result? A yes that was never questioned. That's why this exploit feels almost unfair. It hijacks the etiquette most of us are proud of, being efficient, being polite, being a team player, and repurposes it for access. Spotting it starts with slowing the story in your head. Instead of "they're official," shift to "they're performing official." Notice the props. Listen for the hurry. Watch for the borrowed authority. Legal, compliance, executive, urgent maintenance. None of those words erase your right to verify. The fix is not confrontation first, but connection and verification. Small questions that restore your autonomy before you comply. Try, what work order are you referencing? Or who requested this? Or let me grab the person who owns that. Say it with the same calm they're using. You're matching tone, not surrendering control. In everyday life, it sounds like a friend who always gets you to cover the bill because they forgot their wallet and joke about being the celebrity. In a workplace, it's the colleague who forwards their request with a leader on copy to make you move faster. Online, it's a profile that looks verified enough to ask for your details. Different costumes, same mechanic. What turns the tables is a tiny habit. Separate the status from the request. Treat every ask like an object on the table. Handle the object, not the aura. When you do, something shifts. Pressure dissolves, clarity returns, and the path to either yes or no becomes yours again. The status exploit preys on speed and politeness. Answer with calm and checks, not cynicism, just proof. That is how you stay generous without becoming an open door. The familiar script exploit. The easiest door to open is the one your brain already walks through. Picture a stranger with a friendly smile, a branded polo, and a clipboard. They greet the front desk by name, mention a routine check, sprinkle in familiar jargon, and glide past without a ripple. That is the familiar script exploit. It is not a new trick. It is a rehearsed performance that piggybacks on patterns we trust so deeply we do not even feel them happening. The move is simple. An attacker studies how your world talks to itself. The cadence of tech support, the tone of building maintenance, the phrases your team hears every day, like quick update, standard procedure, or as we discussed. They borrow the costume, copy the lines, and deliver them with crisp confidence. Your guard relaxes because it all sounds right. Right beats safe when your attention is split and the clock is loud. You will see it in emails that echo a colleague's style, with the same friendly greeting and a tiny ask that feels totally normal. You will hear it on the phone when someone starts with the familiar disclosure, then nudges you toward a portal or a code. You will feel it in person when a visitor name drops a vendor you recognize and asks for a conference room and a quick Wi-Fi reset. The trick is not brilliance. The trick is rhythm. When the beat feels familiar, your mind sings along. Why it works is human. We crave shortcuts. We reward fluency. We like people who make our job easier, who bring solutions wrapped in the right words at the right time. That is the pressure point. Not fear, not even greed. Comfort. There is a counter. Break the rhythm on purpose. Add a pause where their script expects a yes. Use a known channel to verify any request, even when the person is charming and the ask is tiny. Call the number you already have, not the one they provide. Require a rotating code phrase for on-site work that only your team can confirm. Escort every visitor, every time. Never say a password out loud, never type one for a guest, and never plug in a device you did not request days in advance. Train your own script. Keep it short. I am going to verify that for you now. I cannot share credentials. You will need a ticket number from our system. Thank you for waiting. These lines buy you time. Time breaks the spell. Most of all, map the patterns your people trust. Reception, shipping, night cleaning, remote support. If they hear the same story every day, that is the story an attacker will play. Rehearse the stop points together until the pause feels as natural as the yes. Familiar is comforting. Comfort is camouflage. Make the familiar work for you, not against you. Rewrite the script. Make the rhythm yours. The fear trigger exploit. Someone out there can make your heart sprint with a single sentence. That is the fear trigger exploit. It is the dirty trick that turns calm, thinking people into rushed, compliant versions of themselves. The move is simple. Shove you into panic, then hand you the one exit door they control. Here is how it plays. You get a message that your bank account is frozen and your money is at risk. A call shows up with the exact name of your bank because the number is spoofed. An email claims there was a sign-in from a new device and urges you to click to secure your account. A pop-up screams that your computer is infected and your files will be deleted unless you call right now. None of this is designed to inform. It is designed to flood your body with adrenaline so your brain stops checking the facts. The exploit stacks 3 levers. First is urgency, a countdown timer, a threat of immediate loss, a limited window. Second is authority, logos, legal language, a stern voice that sounds official. Third is isolation. They discourage you from hanging up, checking another source, or asking someone you trust. Alone, frightened and rushed, you start following instructions you would never accept in daylight. Shady marketers borrow the same playbook. A fake scarcity banner claims only 3 units left. A disappearing bonus flashes even when the timer magically resets every day. Social posts whisper that only insiders know and you must act before midnight. If it feels like a fire drill, that is on purpose. Here is how you beat it without needing to be a neuroscientist. First, script a pause. When urgency spikes, say out loud, "I do not act under pressure." Breathe, stand up, change rooms, anything to break the trance. Second, change the channel. Do not click, do not call back the number that contacted you. Use the official website or the number on the back of your card. Third, verify with a human. Text a friend, ask a coworker, loop in your manager. Fear shrinks in the presence of another brain. Fourth, watch for payment weirdness. Gift cards, crypto only, wire right now, or read me the code are giant red flags. Fifth, build a cool-off rule. 10 minutes for personal decisions, 1 hour for business buys, 24 hours for contracts. Fear fades fast when the clock is your ally. The fear trigger exploit works because it tries to make you forget who you are. Remember this: real institutions give you time, choices, and ways to verify. Fakes give you panic, pressure, and a single narrow escape. If a message tries to make you afraid, it is trying to make you obedient. You do not owe fear your obedience. The Groupthink Exploit. It does not shout. It borrows your voice. That's why the Groupthink Exploit is so dangerous. It convinces you the idea is yours because it sounds like everyone else already believes it. Watch how it operates. One person sets the tone, then sprinkles in phrases like, "We're aligned, everyone's on board," or "No one's raised objections." The room gets quieter. A quick vote appears wrapped in urgency. Anyone who hesitates is labelled difficult, disloyal, or just not a team player. In minutes, a bad idea becomes our decision. And because it's ours, it becomes harder to challenge. Psychologically, groups crave harmony and speed, and that makes us vulnerable to shortcuts that feel safe. We prefer the warmth of agreement over the friction of uncertainty, so we mirror the first confident voice and mistake momentum for merit. Here's what it looks like in real life. You're in a meeting about a high-risk launch. The plan has gaps. A manager says, "Most of us are already committed," then asks, "Any strong objections?" Silence follows, thick and heavy. Someone clears a throat but says nothing. The manager nods as if the silence is consent. The vote happens. Hands go up because hands are up. Later, when the plan falters, accountability evaporates. No single person made the call. The group did. The fix is not louder opinions. It's different defaults. Real consensus is not the absence of disagreement. It is the presence of examined disagreement. Reframing the goal from get everyone to yes to surface the best reasons for no first breaks the spell, because the room is now hunting for truth instead of permission. When you feel the pull of that smooth, too easy agreement, try this. Name the pressure out loud. It feels like we're rushing to align. Naming a social force weakens it. Invite the strongest opposing case before any show of hands. If this fails, what will have blindsided us? Then pause on purpose. Not a vague "any thoughts," but a declared beat where dissent goes first. That brief pocket of air lets quieter wisdom enter the room. If you hold authority, separate ideas from status. Ask the most junior to speak before the most senior. Ask for anonymous written takes before any discussion. People tell the truth when they do not have to fight the room. Treat silence as incomplete data, not agreement. This is how you refuse the exploit without becoming its mirror. You are not fighting the group, you are protecting it. You are trading the sugar rush of instant unity for the steadier energy of a sound decision. In the long run, that is what actually preserves trust. Your voice is not a chorus line. Use it before the room uses it for you. The red herring exploit. Smoke and sirens in the brain, that's what a red herring exploit triggers. It is not about breaking a lock. It is about making everyone stare at the wrong door. The trick is simple, brutal, and almost elegant. Create a loud, urgent problem that feels impossible to ignore, then move quietly where the real damage happens. Picture this. A marketplace suddenly lights up with reports of a fake safety issue. Shaky screenshots hit social feeds. A breathless thread claims a catastrophic bug. Support queues spike. Moderators scramble to write statements, toggle settings, and soothe a swelling crowd. While all eyes chase the drama, a tiny group slips refunds through a loophole, launders gift cards, and flips accounts like playing cards. By the time someone breathes and looks around, the noise has calmed, the outrage cooled, and the money is gone. The red herring never had to be real, it only had to be loud. Why does it work? Because urgency hijacks attention. People are wired to chase flashing lights, to solve the scariest thing first, to prove they are responsible by acting fast. The exploit leans on that reflex, dazzle them with novelty. Borrow authority with a forged memo or a name that sounds official. Force quick choices with a ticking clock. None of this requires master hacking, just a keen sense of how humans prioritize under stress. You can spot it, but only if you remember to look away from the siren. Ask what the noise enables, not just what the noise says. When a crisis blooms, scan for quiet anomalies at the edges, tiny repeated transactions, new accounts moving with old patterns, approval steps that suddenly vanish just for now. Notice mismatches, giant panic on one front with oddly tidy activity on another. If the timeline of outrage and the timeline of loss do not match, the fish smells red. Defense is less about speed and more about discipline. Build a reflex to pause for a breath, even when the crowd demands action. Split roles, so one team handles the noise, while another hunts for the shadow move. Anchor decisions to baselines. If the story is about a giant breach, why are the backups calm? Why is telemetry flat? Why does the ledger show a slow leak instead of a flood? Reward the person who asks the annoying question, the one that cuts through the drama. Who benefits if we look away right here? The red herring exploit preys on pride as much as panic. It whispers that the hero move is to sprint. The real hero move is to stand still, scan the water, and watch for the quiet ripple that should not exist. Ignore the siren. Follow the silence. That is where the crime gets done. The last chance exploit. The clock ran out, the crowd went silent, and somehow the enemy team was still moving. Not a miracle, not clutch. That was the last chance exploit. And if you felt a match slip like sand through your fingers at zero, you've probably met it. Here is how it feels from the other side. You grind a lead for 15 minutes. You trade lives, burn cooldowns, and line up the cleanest finish. Then, in the final second, the screen hiccups. One tiny stutter, a blink. Suddenly the clock breathes when it should be dead. Your ultimate window closes. Their health pops back. They spill into overtime like they paid for extra time, and you never saw the receipt. Behind the curtain, it is not a magic button. It is a stack of small, ugly moves wrapped together. Force a micro desync to make the server doubt the buzzer. Reset a state flag that says the match is over, even though the moment has passed. Abuse a checkpoint that trips twice when it should fire once. One nudge at the right millisecond, and the game gives them one more breath. And with one more breath, a losing team can flip a win like a coin. People call it creativity. They say, hey, the tools are in the box, so why not use them? But look around after it lands. Chat fills with confusion. Replays look haunted. Your team did everything right, and watch the rules evaporate at the horn. That is not creativity. That is breaking the ending and pretending it is strategy. If you suspect it, watch the edges of the final moments. The stutter is the tell. Abilities snap back to ready when they should be greyed out. Payloads twitch forward, then sit still, then slide again like they are thinking about it. Players who are out of position get one more step. Do not chase their chaos. Play to the clean win condition. Spread out so a single rewind does not catch everyone in the same blast. Call it in comms so your team expects the hiccup and keeps heads cool. And yes, record. Evidence is your only real armor when the match decides to argue with itself. For the folks who shrug and spam it anyway, understand the cost. Skill can be taught. Trust cannot. You get a number next to your name, but you will not get respect in a lobby that remembers. Tournaments notice patterns. Friends stop queuing. Your clip looks slick today, and you log off alone tomorrow. The game ends when the horn says it ends. The last chance exploit steals the quiet after the fight, and that quiet is where legends live. Earn it, or watch it fade the moment the server breathes wrong and the crowd stops believing you. The not my fault exploit. Blame is the cheapest armor money can buy. The not my fault exploit wraps people in it so thick they can bulldoze through damage and walk away spotless. It is simple, sneaky, and devastating. Separate the power from the responsibility, and when the mess shows up, point at a policy, a process, or a person who can't point back. Here is how it plays out. Someone sets a chain of events in motion, but makes sure every link looks like it belongs to someone else. They use words that sound official, algorithm, policy, compliance. They flood the room with jargon until the room stops asking questions. Results roll in, and if they are good, they own them. If they are bad, well, the system decided. Picture a manager who dangles a bonus for impossible numbers, then buries teams in contradictory memos. Corners get cut. Targets get hit. When the audit hits, the manager shrugs. That was the guidance. Legal approved it. The team misunderstood. He pockets credit when it shines and hands out blame when it burns. Or the seller on a marketplace who never touches the product, never answers a phone, and hides behind a third-party shipper. Late deliveries, broken items, money vanishes into fees. Who is accountable? The courier points to the seller points to the platform points to the policy, and the customer watches the circle spin. Gamers do it too. Abuse a mechanic that everyone knows breaks the spirit, not the letter, of the game. Farm newbies in a safe zone loophole. When called out, they grin. It is in the rules. If it were wrong, it would be banned. Meanwhile, they bankroll gear and tilt the economy. The genius of this exploit is its camouflage. It does not look like theft. It looks like process. It smells like paperwork and arrives with a smile. It trades on the fear of sounding naive. No one wants to be the person who admits they do not understand the policy. So how do you break it? You strip the armor. You tie authority to ownership with a knot that does not slip. If you can say yes, you can also say, my fault. You cut through the fog with one brutal line. Who is the single human who pays if this goes wrong? You demand a public changelog. You force the decision onto paper with a timestamp. You make incentives point in the same direction as outcomes, not optics. You refuse the weasel words. If it is the algorithm, who tuned it? If it is the policy, who signed it? If it is the rule, who keeps it that way? The not my fault exploit thrives in the dark. Shine a light and it melts. Keep a pencil on the table, keep names next to decisions, and watch how quickly the brave get careful.